One of the most powerful ways you can actually reclaim back your power from your emotional pain is to stop running away from it. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 amazing, powerful ways to actually start to take control of your life. Some of you may know my story, that I grew up experiencing neglect. I went through divorce, my parents divorced, I had physical abuse, so I carried a lot of emotional baggage as I grew up into my adult life. And when I started doing my shadow work, diving deep into my inner child wounds, I started to become aware of ways that these emotional wounds were having power over me. And one survival mechanism that I formed based on all of my emotional pain was the need to control. Because my childhood was very unpredictable, I didn't know when food was coming in, there wasn't really much love, my mother wasn't around because she was off doing her own thing, she was wrapped up in her own childhood trauma and her mental illness. My father wasn't present in my life, so this meant it was very unpredictable, and I created this survival mechanism to control outcome. I had this fear of the unknown. I wanted to control and predict what was going to happen in my life because that felt safe to me. If I controlled things, I was able to know what was going to happen. It made me feel safe. And so this was playing out unconsciously in my life without any awareness of it. And how this actually played out in my daily life was I would try to plan every single day, what were we going to do today? I needed to know what we're going to do today. It made me extremely organized and be on time, because if I'm not on time, I don't know what's going to happen. It felt like the world was ending if I wasn't able to be on time. I would get triggered when things weren't playing out the way I wanted to. This plan wasn't going the way I wanted. So being highly organized and the ability to plan is a really good trait. But the shadow side of that is that overly being organized, obsessed, and getting very triggered when these things don't play out the way you want to, and letting it have control over your life. And this was all rooted in my emotional pain and my inner child just feeling not loved, unsafe, and the predictability of being able to control things made me feel powerful. It made me feel like I had control over everything. I was looking for my power in the wrong way. It was an illusion. I was giving my power away to my emotional wounds. My emotional pain was driving this need to control, this survival mechanism. So I wasn't really in my power. It didn't make me feel like I had control over my life. And deep down, I had this fear of the unknown, because I just feared what would happen if I didn't have a plan for the day. And when I started diving deep into my shadow and doing my healing work, I became aware of this obsession, this need to control. And what I ended up doing was spiraling down into this kind of shame awareness. I kept getting stuck in this loop of shame, thinking, why do you need to control all the time? What is wrong with you? Stop trying to control. There's nothing wrong with the unknown. You're not going to die and all that. And I would just beat myself up even more about it. So I was giving my power away even more to this emotional wound. Only when I started to accept that part of myself and really nurture my inner child and say it's okay, that's when I was able to stop giving my power away to my emotional pain. And I actually reclaimed my power back from that pain, reclaim my power back from all of these things that I needed to control and know what was going on. And that's not to say I don't get triggered when I know I'm going to be late. I don't like to feel like I'm in a rush. I like to be on time so then I can predict still what's going to happen, especially if I'm doing videos that day. If I have a busy day with clients, I need to have a time management plan in place, and I don't think there's anything actually wrong with that. And if you want to actually reclaim back your power from your emotional pain, then you can join me on Monday the 21st of October straight until the 28th for my Path to Emotional Freedom Masterclass. This masterclass is jam-packed, full of tools and practices to help you on your healing journey. You'll learn how to cultivate self-awareness, uncover those limiting beliefs that are holding you back in life, and release that emotional pain from those stories and those limiting beliefs so you can live more in alignment and make choices from joy and peace and from your authentic self rather from fear. So if you'd like to come and join us and start to take ownership of your life, click the link in the pinned comments below, and I hope to see you on the 21st. So you can see here how we can give our power away to this emotional pain. And what can happen is we feed into that emotional pain unconsciously because our ego is heavily attached to our pain because that shaped who we are. Our sense of self gets formed based on what happened in our external environment growing up, and we were programmed of all maybe trauma, society. So then this forms our identity of who we are, and so we are heavily attached to our wounds, our pain, and then we feed into this victim mentality and we give our power away even more for it. We start to label ourselves as I'm a victim, I'm a survivor, I've done this, I've done that, I'm whatever. But what we don't realize we're doing unconsciously is feeding our emotional pain. We're giving it power over us because we're actually naming it, we're labeling it, we're letting it say, hey, this is me, I'm an emotional wounded person. And so we need to take steps to actually getting out of that victimhood. And the first way you can reclaim your power from your emotional pain right now is to take radical responsibility. Taking radical responsibility means actually taking ownership of all of your pain, all of your wounding, and stop running away from it. We all have that emotional baggage that we've carried into our adult lives, and we can be really aware of it, particularly if it's very heavy emotional baggage. But we don't want to feel it. We try to run away from it. We suppress it. Sometimes this can be conscious and unconscious, suppression and repression. We might not be aware we're doing it. We don't want to feel it. We don't want to know because it's heavy, it's uncomfortable, and we don't want, and we feel we don't have the energy, the capacity, the motivation to deal with it. So what we can do today is start taking full responsibility of it. And this is when we stop letting it have that power over us, because now we can do something about it because we are taking responsibility for it and getting ourselves out of victimhood. So the second thing that is very, very powerful, this is a huge one to reclaiming your power from emotional pain, is saying no. This can be saying no to people. This can be saying no to making a choice that you know that may be coming from an unconscious behavior pattern, your shadow, your inner child. We can say no, I'm not going to react like that today, or I'm not going to let that person have that power over me. It's about forming these strong and healthy boundaries with ourselves, and this is when we can reclaim back our power. We really stand in our power when we set those boundaries, and you can do that at any moment. And sometimes this can feel really tricky particularly for those people pleasers, particularly if we have that wounding that we weren't good enough as our authentic selves. So we've had to put these good boy, good girl masks on to be able to show up in the world so people accept us. So we let people cross our boundaries. We think we're doing a really good and helpful thing for people, but actually they're treating you like a doormat. And this is all because of our emotional pain that we've been holding on to, and we're wearing that mask in order to fit in. So saying no is such a strong and powerful way. And the third and final way of reclaiming back your power from emotional pain is to become aware of all of the ways you have been giving your power away. Even just wearing like a sports like Fitbit watch or an Apple Watch that's determining when you're asleep, like what you should be eating, what like the alarms and all of these gadgets things, we're letting it have power over us, particularly if it's one of those sleep watches that analyzes all your sleep. You should be getting this, you should be getting that. We're just giving our power to that, letting it dictate like how much sleep we should be having, when we should be getting up, how much food and protein, all of this stuff. We're giving our power away to it. So it's becoming aware of all the ways we're giving our power away. It's particularly if it's an emotional reaction, if we're letting it have control over us. And the key to this is becoming aware of your limiting beliefs. And so how this played out in my own life was that I became aware of a belief, deep core belief of not being good enough. And this really like drained my power. It blocked me off from doing the things I wanted to do in life because I didn't feel I was capable, like I wasn't good enough. Everything I would put out into the world when I used to do my photography, when I used to do my art and design when I was a teenager, and the YouTube videos I do sometimes, and all these things I wanted to do and have like a better job, a different career. My ego mind that I'd had these wounds attached to it would play out these stories of you're not good enough, you're not capable, it's just not right time. I felt so insecure about everything I wanted to do because this emotional pain, this core belief of not feeling good enough was running the show. I was letting it have power over me. So I was letting it make the decisions for myself and stopping me from actually taking empowered, aligned action for what I truly wanted. I just remember so much being like, oh, that would be a really good job for me because I'm qualified in early years education, and I'd been a deputy manager before at a nursery, and I thought, oh, I could do a manager job. But every time I looked at a manager's job, I would get that inner critic, that resistance, that self-doubt come up and say to me, you're not qualified enough, you can't possibly do that. And all it came down to was the fact I just didn't feel like I was good enough, and I would put myself down. So this is how we let our emotional pain have power over our lives, make choices for us. So we need to become aware of the areas we're letting it have power over us and become aware of those limiting beliefs. So remember, if you want to learn how to actually reclaim back your power, take responsibility, have ownership and control of your life, not in a disempowered way, you can join us on the 21st of October, starting at 4 p.m. UK time, when the first lesson goes live. And it's absolutely free. Just click the link in the pinned comments below to sign up today, and I will hopefully see you then. Much love.